What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special presentation of the Dr. BeeWell Show. This episode today is brought to you by OG Cannabis, the best retail in Maine. Definitely get over there, check them out. Put in a code for 10% off. Dr. BeeWell, Elliott, Maine. Thank you, OG Cannabis. Special episode coming up now. Lily Tang Williams, giddy up, baby. See you in there. Well, thank you for coming on the show today. We have Lily Tang Williams, who's running for District 2 Congress in New Hampshire. How are you doing today, Lily?
I'm doing great. I'm trading on X from a clip of my debate on WMUR on Halloween Day, and it's just unbelievable. It's got a millions views now.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. I've had about 6 or 7 people send that to me today. I thought that you handled yourself, pretty incredibly, in that exchange.
Well, I wish we could have more debates. She rejected 3 colleges' invitation to debate me from New Hampshire, New England College, University of New Hampshire, and I think Dartmouth College, actually PSU. So Dartmouth College invited her for 4 weeks and no response, and the PSU invited by college Democrats, college Republicans, and their campaign rejected. And then finally, New Hampshire, New England College in Henniker, which is sponsored by AARP.
Yeah.
Now you know why she dodged me debate, because the only real time she debated me on WMUR, I call her out.
Exactly, Lily, and I will tell you something else. I've reached out to Maggie's campaign and to them over there to offer them for them to come on the show and to have the same experience. And I haven't had gotten a response from them either. So I'm very grateful to you for taking this opportunity.
Well, it's funny, but if you study her website, Maggie for New Hampshire or something, her top one issue is protect democracy. And maybe that's kind of democracy she has, is not engaging in the debates and hiding and doing her own thing. Maybe it's her Washington, D.C. insiders democracy, not a New Hampshire way democracy, which is every vote, you got to earn it. You got to persuade people. You got to offer the policy solutions and to address the voters' concerns. Now, she talked about democracy, all nice talk, but actually her behaviors, her actions speak louder than her words, how much she values so-called democracy. I even told her, you told the Constitution we are a constitutional republic through a representative democratic government.
Yes, yes. So what are some of the main differences that you would say between you and her?
Well, on her website, only 3 issues. On my website, 9 issues under issues, lilytangwilliams.com, and Lily for Congress. And the top one issue that people are very concerned with on the campaign trail is inflation, economy, high cost of food, energy, healthcare, senior care, and heating oil, electricity costs, everything. Because when the government prints money, borrow money, drive up inflation, our values our dollars devalued, and the inflation goes up, and that drive up the interest rate, mortgage rate, and affordable housing is almost like not achievable. American dream is not achievable, but she won't talk about those. And her blame during debate, it's the big corporations' fault. She never blamed the federal government, which is the only one government in the U.S. can borrow and print unlimited amount of money. And we are $35 trillion in debt. That's why I call her out during debate. She wants to continue all the spending and without answering the question how to bring down inflation, how to cut spending. And I say, your math does not add up. How are we going to pay for this since you talk about it? And she never blamed on corporations. It's like I said that you should go back to Economic 101 to study who drives up inflation, and don't try to think your voters are stupid to buy into your DNC, narratives and talking points.
Right. And you had mentioned it earlier. The people of New Hampshire are pretty unique in that you do actually have to, in this state, you do actually have to get out and shake people's hand and talk to them and let them know about what your policies are. And they're gonna, they're pretty educated. They know what they know what they want, and they know how they want it, and they know how to communicate. They've been, shaking hands with politicians, for forever with the primaries and all, with the two districts. All the congressmen and women have been, pretty active, that you have access to them in this state, unlike you do in other states.
Right. And I believe we have, do retail politics. I've been campaigning with my grassroots volunteer team for 17 months. And she come in, so-called rented apartment in Nashua from DC, and then just, talking about, oh, she is entitled to this seat. She's got millions of dollars from George Soros, Clinton's cash, and all the DC insiders. And without debating me, but constantly, doing her own thing, you deprive people of the democratic process to have an open conversation and debate and lay out your policy solutions. Now, no border solution except blame on Trump. Under Trump, we had a secure borders, but she blamed this bigger government spending bill that we supposed to pass in Congress. But the same though, she never talked about blame on her former boss, Biden, who reversed executive orders for the border. He's the one who opened up borders with his pen and lure people in from all over the world want to come here for free stuff. If you come here, we're going to give you free food, healthcare, housing, travel, and we're going to quick pass to legalization. That is just a slap in the face to all the legal immigrants like me who work hard to achieve our, citizenship and the right to vote, live American dream. There are 5 million people are waiting legally in line with American sponsors. When you say American sponsor, what does that mean? Just like me, be sponsored for my brother's family of 3. That means for the first 5 years when they come here, they cannot be on the back of taxpayers and get on social welfare because we have limited resources. We don't want to pay for the illegals to come here. We want them to go through legal process. We welcome you and legally, but she will not talk about that.
No, nobody really wants to talk about that. And if you do talk about it, you're made to seem like you are a heartless person. And
you're a racist bigot, you
you're a
racist
bigot, right? Exactly. And I have a 2-year-old son, and I think immigration is great. Like you said, you are a shining example of this, right? You immigrated to this country and you did it in a legal way, and I think that that's incredible. So could you just speak to that experience a little bit more, and parallel it to what's going on now?
Well, I come here as a foreign student. I had American sponsors because I did not have money. So American sponsors signed all the paperwork for me. That means I will not become a public burden after I arrived to this country and in graduate school. And I had to pay the debt back. I owe him like $1,200. And after I got married with American citizen, I met my husband the first night when I arrived in Austin, Texas. It's unbelievable love story, first night. And we dated 2 years, got married. Then when I got married, so my foreign student status kind of changed to like a conditional permanent resident called a conditional green card. Then I went through the process, getting interviews, make sure our marriage is legal, it's legitimate. And then 2 years later, I got my permanent residency, which is a permanent green card. And after that, I have to wait for another 3 years in order to be eligible to apply for citizenship and to pass the civics test. And we had to go through immigration court interview. They want to make sure our marriage is real. We're not cheating. We're not sleeping with each other, claim a marriage, and just for the green card sake. So all that legal process, they put us through red tapes and interviews and to pay money, pay fees. I finally become citizen after 6.5 years later. My brother went through the same thing. He waited 13 years in China with me, be American sponsor, pay fees, do background checks and health screens. and they had to fly to American consulate in this China city and to get interviews, to get health shots, like all the vaccines and stuff. So it's very strict. And those 13 years we waited, they had to keep our family, my parents here, separated from them. It was like it was such a horrible, inhuman way. And once he come here, and I'm his sponsor, so they lived with us for over 2 years until they saved money, moved out, got their own apartment, and two people work on like 4 jobs at one time, and no welfare, just work hard, save money, and trying to live the American dream. Now their son is going through college. They're paying through, for him to go through college, and I do agree that the legal process is very, very, outdated. We need to streamline the process. But on the condition of we shut down the borders, we don't want the people come here illegally. It's not safe for them, for the family, for the children, for the women. It's also national security risk. So we need to close the borders. If you do have a political asylum case, then you go through legal port of entry to apply for asylum. It's not like currently everybody come here, have no ID, no papers, a claim for asylum, or think they can just stay. That's how crazy it is. They stay, they get a court paper to say, show up. 3 to 5 years later, who will show up? Only 5% legitimate cases, actually. They were just scattered around. That's why I put Maggie on the spot. How many people come in? Where are they? How many billions dollars did your boss Biden spend on those illegal immigrants instead of our own citizens, our veterans, our homeless in this country? She had no answer. She just repeated her party talking points.
Yeah, that's what keeps happening. I feel like there's a lot of, repetitive talking points, and instead of, finding a solution to the problem. Now, do you think that the mass deportation that Trump has talked about, do you think that is a solution, or what would you, how do you see a path forward? I understand that you said close the borders, and I do, I definitely agree with that. I think closing the borders, but where are you at on the mass deportation that he has talked about?
Well, my proposal is that we will, if we take over the White House and the U.S. Congress, and immediately close borders and deport all the illegal aliens who committed crime. It's horrible. You see the surging crimes in cities, yes, and defund all sanctuary cities. And if you do that, after criminals get deported, you also have people self-deport. No more free stuff anymore. No more those, heavens for the illegal aliens. They might go home. But if they do have employers here, have a good job here, and there's no criminal record, I say, though, let's try to do a humane way, because we need the workers anyway. But they cannot cut front of lines for the people who are already waiting in other countries legally come here. They should not have a green card, but they could apply for work visas. And also, if they don't have a welfare, but they cannot make enough money to pay for their expenses, but they don't want to go back, maybe private employers and the private citizens can step up to become their American sponsors. That means to guarantee them will not become a public burden, but also it's a humane way for them to have work visas and legally work here without the worry about all the potential criminalization. I think that if we put the politics aside, there are lots of ways to actually solve this problem, good for our country, and basically also more human way to handle it. And if a red state like New Hampshire do not want the illegals here, we can at least start to say, okay, if we catch illegals, we want to deport them, maybe to Massachusetts, because they have a sanctuary state, right? So you start with the red state first, if a red state choose to do so, but you want to get the taxpayers off the back, because we cannot afford this. And we need to send a message to the people also in the world waiting to come here legally. We are a country of laws. Do not try to take that path anymore. But if you want to come here, work for living and live American dream, then we want to maybe reform our current outdated process.
That sounds like a really humane, smart way to handle immigration. And I don't know how anyone could really argue against that. I don't know that there's a way to argue against that, to be honest. To like criminalization, if somebody is a criminal and they are committing crimes, we don't want them here for sure. Let's deport them. everyone else who wants a chance, let's give them a chance to live the American dream, but not in front of the people who have already been here going through the process, who have already been living that struggle. Let's take that money that's being invested and given to these people and invest it back into Americans, into
Right.
into some. Yeah, I know. Over here in Portsmouth, I had somebody tell me the other day, Portsmouth, which is a very high end place. It has a lot of money compared to other places in the state. That at their elementary school, 35% of the students on breaks have food insecurity. That's wild to me that we have children with food insecurity, in this state that is being having to be provided extra because there's not enough money going around. We don't have enough programs to be able to provide, or there's not enough jobs for parents to be able to make enough money to provide for their children. I think that's a tough thing that
You
we
would think that's a total disservice, because our citizens, should be treated a lot better. Our veterans should be treated better. And but when the Democrats have this kind of policies, it just does not make sense. Make you wonder, why are they doing this? What is their agenda?
I want to ask you about that, Lily. I want to ask you about that because you grew up in China, in Mao's communist, during that time period, communist government, and do you see any parallels? Are there any parallels to what you grew up with to seeing with the Democratic agenda at current?
Well, lots of parallels. I'm terrified. That's why I'm running for Congress, because I want to defend our country. This is the greatest country on earth. Somebody like me come here with nothing and couldn't even speak English can run for Congress. I want to save that American dream for everybody's children. But this Democrats agenda, I feel like today's Democrat Party has lost its way. It's no longer the old JFK Democrat. Today's Democrat Party wants censorship, and they want to change the social norms. And for example, all the social engineering and indoctrination in our schools, and not really protect parental rights, and think our children belong to the state, and keep parents in the dark if there's something going on in schools regarding their gender. It's a social issue engineering. It's where their academic scores are dropping. No matter how much money we spend on them, on property taxes, we're not getting the return. I think the agenda is almost like some kind of similar culture, like this cancel work cultural revolution, is to destroy the traditional American values and heritages, and to change the social norms, like allowing biological men to crush women in girls' sports, in girls' private spaces. If I had my daughter in today's school, I would be worried to death. I would take her out of regular public schools. I did that anyway. I put all my kids in charter school back then when they were little. But I've been also calling this out. It's not just America. It's international. You go to Western countries, it's the same thing. It's an international migration movement, and use taxpayers' money. You cannot say no. If you challenge that, you are racist, you are bigot. And then you say the transgender movement, like a so high percentage of the kids were being indoctrinated to believe they're in wrong body. Even though the scientists in Europe now say that, it's very normal for them to feel this way when they're going through adolescence. We should not force like the surgeries on them or taking medicines. It just lets them grow out of it, right? And maybe provide counseling or something more humane way. But this push, I just feel like there is an agenda.
Well, there's a lot of capitalism with it too, right? It's $1 billion industry. Surgery costs a lot of money, and these these hormone drugs cost a lot of money. That's my background as a pharmacist, and I see that, and to your point, that I grew up as a Democrat. I grew up as a JFK Democrat. That's what it was because I celebrated people like you. People who were living the dream. Honestly, like the American dream. What they say that come from nothing. To from your story to illiterate. To illiterate working class parents from China. You immigrated here. Picked yourself up by your bootstraps. Raised an unbelievable family, from my understanding that, just as an aside, the videos that your son and your daughter did on Instagram for you is absolutely incredible. That was really sweet. Your son who's in the Air Force and your daughter who's a mental health counselor, inspired by you and the work that you have done. I think that that's something that the listeners should pay attention to is, Lily has been this incredible mom who's raised her kids to become incredible people, it seems. Um, and so I was just, I'm a Democrat, and even today I'm here. I am talking to a Republican. Here I am talking to a person running for Republican office, and it's hard to, like I said, and I reached out to the Democrat. I reached out to her about 100 times, and she didn't answer my call. She didn't answer my call to come on my show, and you did, and I
I'm
think
so
that's
I'm
special.
so I'm so happy to tell you today. And Robert Kennedy retweeted my debate video, and then he called me that I'm his new hero because I speak the truth, and I'm against the censorship, and I'm just so grateful, And he's my hero too because he put principles over party. Think about also democracy, right? You think the Democrats will be all for people running for office, not trying to take them off the ballot, not trying to silence them, but JFK, I mean RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, even Dean Phillips, all were kind of marginalized and censored, and they're trying to constantly get RFK off the ballot by DNC efforts, and they did the right in Biden for the primary when Dean Phillips was running in the primary, campaigning hard. I met him, I shook hands with him. Democrat Party has become party for kind
I
of tyranny. If you
I
don't
shook
agree
his
with us, we're
hand.
going to shut you down.
Yes, yes. I shook his hands, Dean Phillips. I shook Marianne Williamson's hand. I had her on my podcast. I was, I went to RFK when he, in Boston when he announced. I was there in St. Anselm's, when he was, and he did his gig there, and that's what I was excited about. I said, hey, let's do a primary, right, guys? Let's do a primary. Let's see what happens here, and that didn't happen. I think that's kind of another subversion that I don't love. It doesn't feel good, and I don't think it feels good for for a lot of Americans either.
Well, because even when you think about Harris today, I mean, she did not campaign here. She did not get the primary voters' votes. And then party elites kind of just pick her and push out the Biden. And I'm all for people to decide. But the thing is, I just say those tactics kind of reminder for me what I say in China. If you don't like somebody to challenge your narratives, then you have some kind of similar to state media propaganda machines to not to tell the truth. For example, I keep saying this. When Tulsi Gabbard was put on TSA terrorist watch list, how come so many Democrats don't know about it? Because they are still listening, following same kind of news source, not on X. So they don't follow her directly. So they don't know what happened to her. But that's so bad. That's so scary. So if you are our former congresswoman, you challenge your party's narratives. She's independent now, and then they start to watch her like your potential domestic terrorist. That's un-American. That is a tyrannical government. That's what the Chinese Communist Party would do. I was so afraid to speak up in China for 24 years. I was totally alone. I feel so happy here now because I can talk to you, a Democrat, about how I think and speak my mind. And it's great. You're not kidding me,
Yes, of
You're
course.
the one who invited me to come to your show. I said that this is a great state. I do love New Hampshire very much that the people are independent minded. That's why I challenge Maggie. I said, don't you have some independent thinking? Because all she does is like an empty suit repeating the party talking point. And she was
That's
very
why
well
that's why everyone
coached.
loves you, Lily. That's why everyone loves you because and it's going viral right now. That's why RFK called you is because and I've never like seen a politician like the way that you handled that, and it was very respectful. It was very in line, but you could see that someone was talking doing a talking point, and then a human being got real, and it was like whoa, that was a real response. And
Yeah,
that
and
was
my husband
incredible.
thinks I should be a little bit gentle. I was very passionate. I just couldn't help it because you had a limited time. You had to get your truth out. You had to call her out. And I wish, if I had more time like this, 1 hour debate and sit down. I mean, and like this, have a conversation. So that would be great. But I only got a 1 minute, 30 seconds. I had to just get get my points in because I truly want people to know the truth about her. And she has tons of money to run TV ads, and she labeled me as extreme. What do you think I'm extreme? It's just funny. I am a freedom-loving Chinese legal immigrant turned American citizen, come here, embrace live free or die values because I used to be libertarian and I moved here 5 years ago. So I'm extreme because I love freedom. I put the principle over the party. I did leave the Republican Party like in 2008 because I feel like they left me. So I'm like RFK. If your party left your principle, you have freedom
That's
to
the
choose
story to be
any.
told. That's the story to be told. You left the Republican Party, from my understanding, in 2008 because of the Patriot Act and the censorship stuff and what was going on with that. And
With also the bail of the banks, okay, the taxpayers' money bail the big banks.
yes, right, exactly. And
I
so
did not like that.
yeah, exactly. And I love that. I love a human being who's willing to put person over party. Put their policy over their party. And you became a libertarian. You moved to New Hampshire. You started this movement, and then you said, "Oh, well, now the Republican Party seems like they're getting back in line with where I would like to be." And then you said, "I'm going to run for Congress."
Well, I actually was encouraged by some people to run because I come here 5 years ago, nonstop. I published over a dozen articles. I organized Aging Americans Coalition. I become elected supervisor of checklist. I got involved with local charities. I started social club in my town for ladies get together, have friendship. I did the things nonstop, involved in my community. My neighbors in Ware loved me. I won like 3 times the votes my opponents got last in the primary because they know me, they like me, they trust me. So when you trust somebody, when you have a relationship with your fellow citizens, they don't buy into the nasty attacks. Like Lily is not extreme. She's actually quite likable, So I'm not, they say though she has millions of dollars, I don't. There are so many people don't know me, but I cannot have the money budget to run a TV ad. So I'm doing the grassroots old way to shake hands, give talks, doing town halls, and doing Facebook ads and some mailers and radio stations. That's all I could afford. And then she come in, play victim and talk the talk. It just I feel so frustrated. I need to call her out. And I don't mean to really be harsh on her because she's only 37 and I think she's radicalized and she wants to defund police and all that. And her husband is National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, supposed to run our foreign policy. That's another thing. Democrat Party has become the party of endless wars,
Yeah.
sending all the money to Ukraine, where our people are suffering, and they are waving Ukrainian flag on the floor of U.S. Congress. Everyone Democrat was waving Ukrainian flag. My heart just sinks because I know the high inflation, printed money, borrow money, costs our people are paying for inflation right now. Where is the sympathy for those working class people who are supposed to be represented by Democrats Party? But they have become the elitist, war-mongering party and censorship party. It's not the traditional Democrats Party at all.
No, not one bit. That's how I feel. I feel like and I grew up, my dad was in the Union, he was a Union Democrat, JFK Democrat, just that's how it's flipped so entirely that, I'm an independent, that's how I'd like to, I characterize myself, and politics is, as funky to me as is, but I I love that I love that we can have these conversations, openly, and we can and I feel like this should have been, I wish that this could have been happening, 3 months ago, that Maggie could have engaged in good faith, but no one can do that. And, I hope that we can, as a country, get to that point. And I feel like we're close. I feel like we're close with people like you, with people like RFK, people like Tulsi Gabbard. I think that those are people that we need in government.
Well, another thing about our government is that we need to really reduce unnecessary waste, fraud, also no corruption. If people lose trust in our government, I always ask people to be critical of your government and hold them accountable, and to be critical of media and think for yourself. But the thing is, our government has become almost like just really, really not affordable. And how much money that they wasted, and how much money they sent to overseas, how much money that they lose track. And when was last time I audited the federal budget? So when you say Elon Musk is talking with the Trump team, and even Ron Paul talk about we need to actually do some kind of efficiency and auditing of the government and cut down the waste, the fraud, and to make the government more efficient and leaner, it will benefit all of us. And if you don't stop printing money at the federal level, our people will keep paying for inflation. Then how can you blame corporations when you jack up inflation? Only federal government can print money, and then you blame the private sector who have to actually pay for that themselves and pass the cost to the consumers. Even when it comes to housing, right? If your lumber costs going up, your regulation is become overburdensome, your neighbor costs go up. Of course, the housing building cost goes way up. Then we have a very restricted roaming laws at the local level that needs reform. So you have all those factors, but you cannot blame private sectors for this. I think that the federal government is bearing most of the responsibilities and for our housing crisis too. But they bear cost for inflation for sure.
Yeah, that it's very unaffordable for a lot of folks right now, to buy a home, and that's sad because that's what RFK had campaigned on at first, was that regular people want to be able to buy a home and to live a good job and to know that they are going to be taken care of when they're older. Like that's what this country is based on, and the government has gotten too big, I believe, and I do wonder about that, because we talk about trimming a lot of the positions and trimming, becoming more efficient. And I don't know what that means necessarily. I think I would like to understand that more because I do think that it needs to happen. I'm just not sure exactly what it would look like.
So my plan is that I studied a little bit about Senator Rand Paul's plan, and it's very easy to understand. He said, freeze all hirings right now, and let's analyze to say if we can. He used to have one penny plan. That means you cut 1% of your budget. Think about if your family is in debt, you can easily cut 10%. He's talk about 1%, and nobody followed. Now, because of high inflation, we have even more bigger budget and have to pay for higher cost of everything. So now he's talking about 6 penny now, like a 6 penny plan. Within 6 years, if we stick to his 6 penny plan, then we can actually balance budget. That means how much you bring in as government, and that's how much we're going to spend. It will be balanced. If you and I don't balance our budget, we're being dead, we're filed bankruptcy. But our federal government can constantly printing money and limited their debt limit is like unlimited credit card for federal government. But the thing is, though, people have to tie their belts, from all over the country. If we have to say, hey, our country is broke and we need to cut our expenses, so let's not promise any more free stuff. Like all the Democrats, all they do is we need to promise free this, free that, but we don't have money to pay for it. So you're going to borrow or print money to pay for it. At the same time, drive up inflation. So you have to look at the math that where money is going to come from. So I say that, well, we all have to tie our belt, also our citizens too. That means we need to prioritize our spendings. Do we prioritize our citizens' needs, or we talk about other things we want but we cannot afford? So what you need and what you want, it's two separate things. Just like you tell your kids, I'm sorry, you want this toy, but we don't have money to buy that toy. But you need the food. Mom, dad will feed you first. It's very easy. Well, I'm a fiscal conservative. Otherwise, how I'm living American dream today, have a financial freedom to run for office. I got laid off, 2000, lost my job. We live on my husband's one income alone to pay for family of 3 children, big mortgage. I had to cut 20% family expenses, save money. I made every lunch for my 3 kids to go to school because we could not even afford for them just to buy school lunches. And we never eat out as a family, maybe once, twice a year. So you tie your belt. You have to be frugal. And so eventually my business become profitable after 8 years, no profits. and I have a 3 home business today. So I'm a, that kind of role model for my children. You have to live within your means. You have to save money, you have to invest, and you have a responsibility to balance your own budget, even save more for future, rainy days and or put down into investment or something. So I have overcome poverty, social, cultural, language barriers to live American dream to be self-employed entrepreneur. I want to be the example for other people to say, hey, if you're a minority, you are poor right now, but you just have to have right behaviors and rely on yourself because nobody cares more about you than yourself. You do have responsibility to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And if you cannot afford to go to college 4 years, well, go to trade school, go to community college. If you go to study plumbing, you come out making $80,000 a year. Why not do that, right?
Yeah, Lily, I'm really amazed by you because I never like in my life, I didn't think that we would get to a point where somebody of your stature, your being, would be able to run for a Republican office. And I think that it's really incredible. You're a pick yourself up by your bootstraps, entrepreneur who's, that it's a really amazing story.
Yes, I have this flyer and I describe my character in 3 words: patriotism, perseverance, and compassion. I do feel sympathetic to our people's needs in second district. And our average household income in District 2 is actually lower than District 1. There is more wealth in the City 1. And I traveled around. I went to the northern border. I talked to the regular people. I chat with people in parking lot, in Walmart, in Home Depot, ask them, what are your top concerns? I talk to young people work on 2 jobs, part-time jobs, and trying to pay back their student loans. It's just heartbreaking for me to hear their stories. And you cannot, you really feel this like I'm connecting with people at a personal level. As I said, I'm not that partisan. I'm, party just, one way to get you elected. And I agree with the Republicans' platform, small limited government. That's how I joined them. But when they left that, I left too. But the New Hampshire and GOP, I feel like it's actually more libertarian than in the past, like where I lived in Colorado, and of course nationally, this make a put American first and want to make American healthy again. That's the RFK slogan. I think it resonates with me. We should focus on common ground as American citizens and have a compassion for each other, but don't rely on government as the only solutions. Maggie's only solution is more government. But instead of talking about, how we focus on common ground and listen to their concerns and bring down inflation, if I feel like it's scary when you brainwash the youth voters, only rely on government. What if government take away what you own? Like in China, you rely on them for food, and when you become not politically correct, they cut out your food supply. Then you will be starving. It's very scary. And she also talked about abortion a lot, and young girls vote for Democrat because of that. But they don't ask who is the party right now. Erase woman and cancel woman, and then they made a biological man competing in girls' sports, and actually
Yeah.
it's not safe. And also that privacy, like locker rooms and bathrooms and jail cells, were not being raised, and you're still voting for Democrat who want to cancel you. It really does not make sense to me. So I think because they are reading different source of information.
Yeah, the biological males playing women's sports is definitely a tough one for me. Just because I know how strong I was in high school, and we did play versus, we had girls on our football team, and that was it's just different. You have a different strength level. Testosterone is a real thing. It's just I couldn't imagine, it being the other way, like me, a boy playing on a girls team, and that it's a real thing is just, I don't know. I don't imagine a reality where it can work. I try to be open to everything. I don't see a reality where that specific thing could work at all.
I'm a libertarian, so when people are 18 and they want to choose whatever they want to be, I respect that. It's personal choice. I mean, I want to keep government out of people's bedrooms. I respect that.
Yeah.
But when our children are minors and they still need the parental protection, they need the government protection. And here's another thing: the Title IX supposed to be support women athletes to compete with each other to get the scholarships. And the Biden-Harris administration wanted to offer that Title IX scholarship to all the trans athletes. And of course, when the boys are stronger, they win. They win swimming, they win boxing, they win soccer. I mean, like whatever. They're just stronger biologically, so they will win those scholarships. Where girls get marginalized, it's not fair to the female
How,
athletes who work so hard to
how
achieve
about
that.
how about this one, Lily? The WNBA is really having a moment right now, which is amazing, and all these women are getting recognition that they've probably deserved for a long time, potentially. That hey, they're getting this recognition for playing a professional sport. This is amazing. Let's look at their craft. Now money's going to come in. They're going to be, instead of being paid $50,000 a year, they're being paid $3 million a year through endorsements and through new salaries, and that's incentives. If the incentives are messed up for people, then they're going to follow the incentives. So if a biological male says I can go make $3 million by playing by playing a woman's sport, of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'll change my body and I'll do that. So the incentives are just the incentives are messed
You're
up with
right.
it.
You're right. The human beings naturally respond to incentives. When you have a good government system, actually, it's incentive for individuals to work hard, save money, invest wisely, keep more what they earn, and so they have incentive to become entrepreneurs, to want to become rich and to constantly think about, oh, how can I become self-employed, I have financial freedom and become rich? How can I become best of nonprofit or athletes and get the scholarships and get the rewards, right? But when the incentives like this, huge money, but offer somebody who plays in women's sports but who are not XX biological woman, of course they want to come in. But because they might not win as men on their team in their field, but they can win in women's field. So it just I think that we need to be common sense focused Americans. We have to admit there is difference. But when it comes to lifestyle, you can choose whatever you want. Live free. Let alone live free. It's fine with me. I'm not against really trans community at all. I'm just saying that I want to stand with women to protect their sports, to protect their safety and their private spaces, which is common. It's common sense, right? You would think.
Well, yeah, I think we should. Yeah, like I said, the Republican Party is cool. But we should start the common sense incentive party, right? Because that's what it is. If you have common sense and you make the right incentives, governing is easy. And like that's all
Right.
I'm hearing from you. I really enjoy hearing that from you. Because that's how I believe too. Be who you want to be. Live free or die. Do your thing. Do your thing. It's your body. Make your choice. But with children, it's a no go. With sports, it's a no go. It's just we're different. We're biologically different. It is a thing, and we need to assess that. And we should be able to talk about that without being canceled. We're not bigots, racists. We're not these people that anti-trans people, transphobia. Not at all. I
Yeah,
have friends, and it's funny.
right. Steve, another thing, Steve, it's scary that I have seen in South China that Mao used the identity politics to separate people into oppressor versus oppressed, like five red classes against the five black classes, and black classes are supposed to be oppressors, red classes supposed to be oppressed. So you have a 10 class of Chinese fighting each other tooth and nail. They want you to hate each other, to see each other as enemies. I really hate the identity politics. That's why I came out against, 3 years ago in Concord, we had a rally as Aging American Coalition against, critical race theory indoctrination in our schools and against the DEI, ESG, and the vaccine passport, track people and force vaccine on people who don't have choices. But that's what I'm saying. When they talk about women's choices, they don't talk about medical freedom. I'm endorsed actually by Health Freedom in New Hampshire, RFK group, thousands of members, because during pandemic, I stand up against the forced, vaccine and also emergency use. I mean, all the female nurses had to quit their jobs. That's why we have
How about that?
hospital shortages. We have shortages today, nurses and
How about
doctors. And when
that?
you
How
go,
about that? The people that were fighting a disease that we had no idea about that risked their family. I get emotional about it. So that they were putting the first responders were putting their lives at risk. They were going every day, getting a disease when it was new to us. We didn't really know. And then they said, "Hey, thank you for doing that for a year. But now we have this vaccine, and if you don't take it, we're going to take your livelihood from you." We're going to
I
take your
know.
ability to, I've had somebody on the show who went through that, and that was just incredible to me. That was absolutely incredible that's these people put their lives on and at that time we had no idea. So it was putting their lives at risk, whether these were, some of them weren't the healthiest people, maybe they did have comorbidities. They were still out there, still fighting. And those people you turned around and then said, if you don't do this and continue to do this, we're going to take your livelihood from you, your ability to earn money in this country.
And how about this, Steve? We have a military people. My son was included as officer. Only 29 years old, super healthy. You must take the emergency use vaccine or you get fired. And that's why they have hard time to reach their recruitment target now. You have work PC military, you have vaccine mandate in the past. Nobody wants to go. So now they're trying to lower standards to get other people to join. And we're not focused on the military mission, which is defend our country against foreign and domestic enemies, and they're focused on social engineering. You may I watch some recruit videos. It's all about DEI now. It's all identity politics. This country is going down right direction. Like you said, it's so sad when people, first responders, who already got sick, who already got the immunity, and the government say you have to do this, otherwise we're going to fire you. It's just it's unbelievable that who is really tyrannical here? It's not the Republican Party side, and they always call former President Trump dictator. But I say, well, he's a guy who actually was impeached and canceled and banned by social media, big tech, because government want to use big tech to censor political dissidents, including him. And he got arrested, indicted, and it's like a. Can you imagine they could do that to anybody who disagree with him? So it's not even about a person. It's about our countries. Our justice should be equal protection for all Americans. But they talk. Nobody should above the law. Yeah, but Hunter Biden was above the law. His laptop story was censored by Facebook CEO. He even come out to say, yeah, we had to censor that because Biden's DOJ made them to censor that information during the presidential election year. How come the mainstream media don't talk about that? It's like a censorship cost
Yeah,
elections.
and if Elon Musk never bought Twitter from Jack Dorsey and turned it into X, we may never have gotten the Twitter files and figured out a lot of this stuff. That
That's
FBI
scary.
had. They had
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. Like I said, lifelong Democrat. Everyone wants to yell that everything was fake and that was election interference. That was interfering with an election. That with the Hunter Biden laptop case, the FBI had access to it, and they decided not to talk about it. They suppressed the news through Meta, through Twitter. It's wild to me.
Oh, I was in jail in Facebook quite a few times when I was against the children's mask and mandate on little children. So heartbreaking to see kids, two big eyes, living in fear.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah. I have a 2-year-old Lily, and I thank God that he didn't have to go through any of that because he's only 2 and we were out of it already. But
And 4 years old has spent 2 years on mask. They actually had to go through speech therapy. They did not even learn how to interact with people.
yeah,
And the
oh my
parents, you would
God.
think we should really wake up now to see who is doing that back then, right?
Yeah, and who was doing that? The thing is too, we don't talk about it, right? Like it just went away. Now we can't. No one talks about the pandemic, even though people are still having injuries from vaccines, and there's still a lot of stuff going on. And we were lied to. Instead of making that right, it's just swept under the rug. Let's just move on. Something else.
And
What's
no
next on the list?
consequences. Who should be responsible? Who
Yep.
lied to us? You know, How about the media? Any media bear responsibility to talk about like the pandemic of the unvaccinated? If you don't get a vaccination, you have blood on your hands, and your neighbor should call cops, report on you when you have parties. You should not have a restaurant food. You should not go see your families. We should never forget about history. It's like that's why people don't learn history in our schools. You don't know the whole history of communism, Holocaust, socialism. You forget about pandemic just happened a few years ago. Now we are going to doom to repeat it. I can never forget what happened to me in China. I can never forget what happened to me, us during pandemic. We have to speak the truth. And the mainstream media don't talk about it. Thank Elon Musk. We can talk about it on X. But lots of people don't even get on X. And they still just buy into the mainstream media and their politicians' narratives. You know, that's why I want to go to schools, connect with our students. I would love to go to high schools and colleges, educate them about my stories, and open up for questioning answers. And censorship costs lives. That's what happened during pandemic. Lots of people died. They denied the opportunity to know the truth. So who is the real threat to democracy? It's the party who censored the COVID-19 information leaked from China. They even censor that. It's just unbelievable.
It's really unbelievable, and I do want to ask you about China. You know, because of your background, you know, in your history. How do you think that the United States should be able to navigate that relationship? You know, going forward, they're obviously another superpower in the world where, you know, it's kind of where we're always the top superpower. And now there's a changing landscape, you know, where maybe that's not always going to be the case. Maybe there's multiple and China's always vying for that spot. So I'm just curious how you think, you'd like to navigate that as a congresswoman.
I have to tell people I was born in China. I chose to become American citizen 30 years ago because I love this country. I gave up my Chinese citizenship. When we talk about China, we have to separate Chinese government from the people. Chinese people are the most nice, hospitable, and actually somehow passive people who are biggest victim of the CCP dictatorship. Because I speak for them, because they are voiceless, they don't have true access to truth, to internet. I speak for them, and I tell my stories in this country, and I'm on CCP's blacklist. So they threatened me for years now, for 5 years now, and I had to cancel my trip 5 years ago to go to China to see my large family relatives. Most of them are still inside China. And after I become a congressional candidate, speak the truth about Taiwan, about Hong Kong, about China, and they gave me death threat on Twitter 2 years ago. So I said, I have a lot to lose, right, by running for public office, speak the truth. But hey, I live in live free or die state. I tell them take a hike. I'm gonna say whatever I want. I have a free speech in this country. So China, the one-party dictatorship, people cannot vote and they cannot participate in any kind of decision-making. It's Xi Jinping's dream to unite with Taiwan, to maybe even use force, but also his dream is to make China by 2049 to become the #1 dominant power in the entire world. Yeah, gee, thanks, United States. If you let China become #1, we can all live under one-party rule. Would that be awful, right? So, but our China policy is insane in the past. We actually trust them too much. So China will become more democratic like us after they enter the World Trade Organization, and China becomes second largest economy. And because they open up to the foreign investment and to adopt a little bit of free market capitalism, free enterprise, so Chinese people got richer. They started private companies, which is great. I support that. But when Xi Jinping became the new leader 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, he's taking China backwards. He wants to grow China internationally through bully behavior, through like the one band, one road initiative to set up a foreign debt trap to occupy other countries and involved with infrastructure projects. At the same time, they use soft power like apps, like a Confucius Institute all over the West, including our country. Confucius Institute was on the campus of University of New Hampshire for a long time. They just got shut down, maybe 2 years ago or something. And so how naive are we? We have the number one adversary country and a one-party dictatorship, but we are relying on them for lots of critical supplies from the Green New Deal stuff, and even give them a taxpayers credit. Chinese state enterprises use our Green New Deal and federal tax credit to come here, even build stuff, to supply stuff. They have a dominant market in batteries, and solar panels. So we need to be very, very careful. We cannot rely on China for supplies, including vitamins. We need to secure borders so they do not traffic their spy people, their fentanyl into our country, going through Mexico. And we need to shut down any infiltration in our country from CCP in education, in business, in Wall Street, in big tech, and in our schools. That's why they don't want me to win, because I read the Chinese news every day and I know what's going on. I have lots of people like me and behind me do Chinese language research. I think I'd be tremendous help, asset in US Congress to help United States deal with China, develop very smart, effective Chinese policies. But right now, hey, I'm nobody. Nobody, is really consulting with me about China policy yet.
You're not nobody. Hey man, you're not nobody. I've been talking to you now here for about an hour, and you are absolutely not. And you are somebody. You are a force. Regardless of what happens, today, baby, we're endorsing Lily. Dr. BeeWell, we're endorsing Lily for Congress. So giddy up. So I want it to go well for you on Tuesday. Regardless of what happens on Tuesday, you need to keep spreading this message, and you need to keep doing this because it's incredible what you're talking about. You would be an asset. 100%. You are living the American dream. You are the exact person who we should have in Congress.
Thank you so much for your endorsement. I appreciate that. So to summarize my China policy to help our country is that we need to decouple from China. We don't rely on them, because if they do invade Taiwan, we cannot afford to have enforced economic sanctions because we're relying on them. How can you sanction them when you have to buy stuff from them? Then we need to engage them. And we need to call out their human rights abuses. We need to supply some kind of app, some kind of technology to empower Chinese people inside the China to access free internet, to become mind-free once they know the truth. I say the Chinese people, 1 billion of them, will rise up against their own government, tyrannical government. And at the same time, we need to contain China and not poke the bear to avoid and deter the war. We don't want to have endless wars. We cannot afford it ourselves, but we also want to contain them, engage them. So I have lots of more detailed proposals, but we don't want them infiltrating into our country. So that's another thing we can develop some kind of policies to keep them, out of infiltration here.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very smart policy. Now, would that really happen if we were able to, if more Chinese people who are under the CCP rule had access to more information and technology, they would rise up and they would overthrow their government?
Well, there are protests everywhere. The economy is pretty bad inside of China right now, because Xi Jinping, his CCP people put my friends in Shanghai, the most international commerce city, under strict like a homebound lockdown for 6 weeks. My friends were stuck in their apartment for 6 weeks, could not go out, even shop for food. They have never felt that hungry since the most Cultural Revolution. Can you imagine? That was like just 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So it's crazy. That's why all the small business, lots of them in Shanghai have filed bankruptcy. They cannot continue. They cannot be profitable. And they're now paying for the price. And young people feel like the unemployment is very high right now. But Xi Jinping is like a Mao. he still wants to push for his international expansionism, his international power agendas, and he is investing money and all of the Africa, even Caribbeans, and because he's not like Mao. Mao is self-isolationist and the dictator. He just wants to keep doors closed and controlling Chinese and make 6 million people starving to death. But Xi Jinping wants to expansion internationally to become #1 power. He might not care about China's economy. He might not care about Chinese people's well-being. So they're cutting the state enterprises and like workers' salaries and the people's retirement benefits, young people high unemployment. So they are protesting. But nobody knows they're protesting because they have a firewall to block the entire, the free access to truth, to internet. So we spend lots of money at the US government to fund the Voice of America. What do? They have gone left. They don't even interview me for Voice of America in Chinese languages. It's like they have become more actually in line with the CCP, with the regime. A fraction of their money could be used to develop a technological app that the Chinese citizens inside China could download to their cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone. And to access, there is something called the Freedom Gate app that when Iranians, when Mexico people, when Brazil people were protesting, they even download this little app on their phone to access to true internet, to the truth. Why can't we actually spend fraction of money to invest in that? That will deter the war. We don't have to fight a very expensive, costly, war. We can just help the people in those totalitarian countries to access free internet. And that will, Iran, same thing. Iranian woman told me, we need help to access free internet. We need the US to call out their regime. So when the Iranian woman, especially women, rise up a couple of years ago to fight their totalitarian regime, where is the United States? So instead, we gave them billions of dollars, made a deal with Iran to give them billions of dollars, left the economical sanctions under Jake Sullivan, husband of my opponent, Maggie Goolander, and then allowed Iran sending hundreds of billions of dollars of oil to China to empower themselves with lots of money, then go funding Hamas and terrorist organizations. And now they are causing the Middle East region not stable. I hope that we all can work toward peace eventually, but you need to have right policies, foreign policies. We need to have a competent leadership in DC.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a really great plan, and the value that you could bring, seems obvious. So I really think that's great. I have a couple more questions, and then I won't take up too much more of your time here. So you have the whole time, you've been mentioning, you've been saying that, people are free to do with their bodies what they want. Where do you land with with abortion?
Well, I have said that many times. It is a state issue. The Supreme Court decided it belongs to state. I have said it over and over again. It's on my website. I'm not going to vote to ban abortion at the federal level at all. I trust the people of New Hampshire to decide. So young girls don't buy into the attack by the Democrats who always run on this issue to say, oh, they're going to ban abortion at the federal level. Even Trump said it's a state issue and let the state to decide. He's not going to touch this issue at the federal level. And but I am personally want to help women to make well-informed decisions. By what? By offering help, by donating money. Because there are two lives on these issues. I feel sympathetic towards both lives. There are lives, and life deserve reasonable protections on this issue, but do it by yourself through private charities to persuade girls to choose life and to choose adoption. Because, that we have 6 months, just like California, just like Massachusetts. But the Democrats keep using this issue as top issue. It's like number 5th issue. I'm not a downplay that issue is important to lots and lots of women. I respect that. But the thing is, I promised I will not vote at the federal level at all. So I'm going to leave the New Hampshire people to decide, which is the most democratic government in the entire country. We have largest state government elected by people. 400 state reps make $100 a year. They are people servants. So citizens can give them input. You know, what do they want to? I think most people are in the middle. Most people, if they truly know that, this issue, state issue, we have 6 months, and then they can work through their representative government to say whatever they want to have their ears, which is fine. But I always want to promote adoption because some women might have regrets, might have mental health issues, might not choose wisely, but whatever you have legal protection right now in our state. But let's just empower women to help them and to make a well-informed decisions and basically trying to protect all lives involved. But I will not vote at the federal level to ban abortion. Trust me on that. It's on my website.
That sounds sounds pretty good to me. Now, how New Hampshire specifically is a state that deals with with opiate overdoses, and there's it's one of the still top 10 countries in the United States in the country for that, and cannabis in states where cannabis has been has been legalized, we have seen those numbers decrease. So I'm just curious what your opinion is on on cannabis in New Hampshire and on cannabis in greater on the federal level. Both candidates have kind of said where they land on it. Kamala being she said federal legalization, and Trump says to continue to go down the path of descheduling to Schedule 3 so that we can study it, and kind of just maybe being a little bit slower.
I think that we should absolutely schedule at the federal level. It's like it's next to heroin right now.
Yeah, right.
and,
Yeah, it's a Schedule 1.
and then we have so many states already either legalize it or medically legalize it, decriminalize it, and it causes lots of issues because at the federal level it's like a type A drugs and cause lots of problems with for consumers and for the business owners. Let's deschedule it and give back to the state. Then respect states' right to decide. In New Hampshire, people decided, you can possess certain amount and you're not a criminal. And I always say, hey, when people peacefully use marijuana and don't hurt people, and just like a drinking wine, right? It's like they're not causing any issues, and let the state government to work out what kind of laws it is appropriate for their own state. But we need to trying to get lots of business out of DC, out of federal government. If we can deschedule it, that means veterans who take marijuana for PTSD, for pain, they don't have to be restricted. Once you tell people you smoke marijuana at the federal level, you cannot buy guns.
Right.
You're like a criminal, right?
Yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I think I fundamentally, I'm a kind of little L libertarianism. It's like, hey, if you don't hurt people, you don't take your stuff, you want to personally use peacefully use marijuana, and that should be state issue. It's not a federal issue. Get the federal government out of this. So I endorse Trump's position. Let's absolutely schedule it and get back to the state.
Yes, it sounds good to me. Exactly. Any of the plans really sound good to me, and that you're supportive of it, I think is great. I think New Hampshire is going to go pretty soon. Hopefully in this next cycle. I've had a really awesome time chatting with you today, Lily. It's really been phenomenal. I again, I said I'm a raised Democrat. I am a person who's then, I'm an independent, very much so now, and having this great conversation with a Republican candidate who I think would be a wonderful member, a wonderful addition to Congress, has really been enlightening for me and engaging. And I cannot wait to get this out. People are going to get to see they're going to get to see this ASAP. We'll have this out tomorrow. So I really appreciate you for coming on the show today, and I do hope that we'll get to do it again sometime. You'll come in and we'll get to sit down and really talk about some of these issues for a longer chat.
Oh, I would love to meet you in person, go into your studio, and I think meeting in person and it's so much better than online. The online is just, hey, when we don't have time, we have to do this. But it's still better than phone. So we can see you, I can see your face. When I talk to you now, I know put the face behind the phone. But thank you for endorsement, for your interview. And I love to engage. And my longest interview with Sean Ryan, a veteran, it's like 3 hours. Talk about my childhood stories under Mao. And he even made me cry on his show. It was awesome. So I would love to look forward to meet you, do this again. But I appreciate your endorsement. You interview me, and I hope to look at your listen to your podcast and even have some clips from you. That'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. We'll definitely get those out, and I will definitely look out for that podcast that you've already been on. I'll be excited to hear that conversation, and I promise we'll probably do some crying together when you come in.
All right, thank you. And you have a good Saturday, and we will see you soon.
Lily, absolutely. Good luck this week. Good luck this week. You're going to do great. We'll talk to you next
Thank you.
time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And bye.
Bye.